Hi, it's Lee, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Seriously, I have people telling me that Tesla's stock price will hit $30,000, and within the next 10 years or so. That's over 100 times today's price. These people are passionate about Tesla, obviously, but we can't scream them for credibility. But for all we know, they have 100 shares and hope that they'll become a multi-millionaire, as that is their only hope, and it makes them happy, similar to a lottery ticket that doesn't expire. However, they are out in the community disputing any objective opinion that perhaps things may not go as well as they hope. And then others in the community hear their confidence, which is backed by not much else other than Elon's hyperbole. Alright, I'm sure the majority of you here don't genuinely believe that Tesla will hit $30,000, and I don't mean to offend anyone who does, but I try and keep within the most realistic, likely realm of possibility here. There are, however, plenty in the $3,000 a share camp too. Obviously a more realistic price, but is still the combination of the value of the two largest companies in the world doubled. A more than 10x from here. Personally, I don't even think Robotaxis could take us there by the end of the decade. $10 trillion valuation is a big one. Sure, I guess one possibility of the future is that everyone will just ride Robotaxis as the main form of transport, but no one has a clue as to how the future will actually unfold. And in any event, certainly not within the next 10 years. At a $3,000 valuation, I think we would have to have a PE ratio of 30, so something like $330 billion a year in net profit. If each Robotaxi brought in a net profit of $20,000 a year for Tesla, then Tesla would need about 15 million of those operational, generating said income. Well, that's not entirely true, as there are other sides of the business generating profit as well. Then there is this whole side of how Tesla will replace labour. It's another story that Elon has mentioned, and we have this idea that for about $20,000 or something, there'll be a robot that can replace what humans can do, or perhaps more than a human, as it may be able to work harder, faster, stronger, smarter, and longer. Not to mention, we'll have a lot more knowledge and be a lot more intelligent in many ways. Yes, quite the story. It means Tesla could be worth, well, this is how people get the idea of $30,000 stock price. With Elon saying things like, he doesn't even know what an economy would look like by that stage. And we would live in abundance, as robots can do all the work for us, and they cost virtually nothing compared to a full-time human. However, currently, the robots are not able to replace any labour. In fact, they can barely walk, and have probably cost in the region of about $50 million each, including the research. We have, however, seen them working on the Tesla production lines, doing various tasks. So we are a long way from replacing labour at a low cost, with no proof that we can actually get there, other than an excited, charismatic leader who's confident it can be achieved, but unfortunately with a string of other ideas that have also not yet come to fruition, like solar, batteries, and self-driving robots. But there's also a string of successes too, namely an EV that is able to be produced at a very low cost relative to everyone else, with a much higher offering, that is the best-selling car in many markets, and other various successes in other businesses that help offer more faith in his future endeavours. And only one of these need to come into fruition, and the entire company will level up in a big way. These are big stories, and take Tesla to not the biggest company in the world, or even ever in history, but closer to the majority of the global GDP sort of big. I mean, does that sound believable? I mean, when we first heard about these robots, the community jumped to all sorts of conclusions of how they can replace so much labour, do better jobs than so many other humans. But there is potentially many orders of magnitude to reach until we're there. But Tesla may find some applications that are sufficient to replace labour in some areas and start from there. Also, if Tesla's bots became as successful as Elon says, and Tesla becomes this company that dominates the world, it would all be under the assumption that there was no competition nor government intervention. Governments may force Tesla to license the FSD technology for Apple robots, for example. Anyway, as for these insane stock valuations, sure, there is a story of how it could possibly reach it, and you can make the numbers work, but you don't know if the society for said events would work. Robotaxis may not be for everyone either, or close to everyone. Many people could give up their car ownership now and save money by using Uber, but people like having their own cars, and will even more so when they can drive themselves better. It doesn't matter how much cheaper transport becomes with robotaxis, it might not mean more people give up their cars, but instead it competes with Uber and actual taxis, along with perhaps public forms of transport like buses. On top of that, if you can end up buying a brand new Tesla for around $20,000 after tax credits and subsidies, and then all the savings in fuel on top of that, then Tesla is making the cost of owning a car lower. In addition to that, through manufacturing, technology, and software, said vehicle comes with a lot more features than you would likely find on a car that costs even 2 or 3 times as much, making it not only a lower cost vehicle to own, but one that is exceptionally better value, especially if it comes with FSD. In other words, perhaps demand for car ownership might increase as Tesla is able to offer a lower cost of ownership for a car. There are supposedly about 5 million active Uber drivers in the world, but Tesla could perhaps make 2 million Robotaxis a year. I guess one thing is we assume that the Robotaxis will be making about $30,000 a year or so, and only cost less than $20,000 to manufacture. Well, what if Tesla dropped its rate significantly and each taxi only produced $10,000 a year? Then that would change things. It's still a good return for Tesla, 50% a year, but would then make robotaxiing transportation very low cost. Anyway, just because Tesla even sold robotaxis in some cities in some nations, it doesn't mean the profits will instantly go through the roof. However, if Tesla have 20 million cars on the road that are each paying $3,000 a year for FSD, then that's $60 billion a year, and possibly an additional 5 or 10 million cars a year on top of that, or $20 billion a year income, towards the end of the decade. Imagine your profits increasing $20 billion every year due to so many people wanting to subscribe to your software. Remember, this will likely be offered by all legacy autos within time too. Then potentially some robotaxi income on top of that, perhaps also around $50 billion net profit. And by the end of the decade, which is kind of when I'm talking about, well, Tesla could be making a further $100 billion a year selling vehicles. Then other things on top of that, perhaps energy is another $50 billion. And like I said, robots are a bit of a wild card, a massive story with a lot of potential FOMO. Essentially, Gen 3 scaled up, FSD solved, and some robotaxis out there's perhaps $200 billion a year profit coming in. If you throw a P ratio of 30 on that, then that is $6 trillion, or nearly 8 times today's stock price. That actually is quite good, and far more realistic approach of where Tesla will be by the end of this decade, or a stock price of around $2,000. This isn't really my exact price target, this is more an if FSD is solved by the end of the decade price. I think this would only require Tesla at a run rate of around 10 million vehicles a year. I can't see Tesla reaching enough cells and batteries to get to 20 million by the end of this decade yet. However, people who I talk to who do know more about global battery production around the world think it might be possible to hit more around 13 million. I know a lot of investors are hoping for a $3,000 price tag, and I guess there is a possibility. It's only 50% more than what I suggested, and the stock price could always run. Interest rates could drop too, and Tesla's margins could increase. And even if FSD hasn't been solved, it's probably going to be pretty good by that stage, and worth paying for, presumably if more people understand its benefits, with perhaps some advertising. 10 million vehicles a year at $10,000 profit by that stage doesn't seem too extreme. Tesla should have got their cost of cells down to about $70 a kilowatt hour well before then, supposedly, saving about $5,000 per long-range vehicle. That alone is huge. I would just like to see some more progress on Tesla actually moving to expanding manufacturing with the next model, which is likely to be the biggest selling vehicle in history. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.